Hi there, my name is Tony Simmons and I am a Linux systems administrator for a unstated company. I've been doing so for about 20 years, and I thought today would be a good time to show somebody or you how to install Linux on a virtual machine for messing around, or even for something you want to do where you don't have multiple computers at home. So with that, I am going to start with installing VirtualBox, which you can download from, that's not it, that's virtual, there we go, from VirtualBox's website. So you can click on download VirtualBox here, and after you get to that, there's going to be a link to a x86-64 installer. You will want that. And also with that, you're going to want to download CentOS. Now you can go ahead and on the CentOS distribution, x86-64, we're going to grab the ISO for that. And there is a fairly big list of places where you can get it. I recommend using BitTorrent to get that because it will pull down from multiple sources at once. And if you have a fast connection, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, you're kind of dependent on whatever the host that's sharing this bandwidth has. So we're going to grab the DVD ISO just so we have the full installer. So grab that and come back to the video when you have all those downloaded. Also, go ahead and install VirtualBox. Just kind of take all the default options and start from there. So yes, 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 next, 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 next. You know how it goes. Hooray for Windows. Okay, do that, come back. Thanks. Okay, everything's been downloaded, so I am going to... All right, and we're back. We got the ISO downloaded, we got VirtualBox installed. Let's go ahead and open it up. And we'll go ahead and start with clicking here. We're gonna add the ISO for your newly downloaded CentOS image. So we'll go ahead and hit that, hit open. And now what we're going to do, oh, yep. There it is. Okay, so go ahead and hit close here. We're gonna use that when we go to install. So we're gonna create a new virtual machine. And just for giggles, I am going to name this one CentOS 8, which is also going to be our password for the moment. And we'll go hit next here. And you're going to want more than 2 gigs probably, but it really depends on what you plan to do with your virtual machine. We'll go with 2048, which puts about 2 gig. This is good for, you know, pretty small system if you wanted to run like a small Java app or something like that. All right, we'll hit next, and now we will create a virtual hard disk. There will probably be a couple of different options here, like the VDI, VHD. I just stick with the default. If you're not doing anything crazy, I don't really know where the differences are. There is documentation that talks about that, but yeah, I don't know. All right, and we will dynamically allocate, which basically says it's going to create the disk, but it's not going to like allocate the whole thing to your hard drive ahead of time. So as you fill up the disk, it's going to increase how much disk it actually uses. So it's kind of like it's in use, but it's kind of hidden from whoever's on the back end. We'll hit next, and we'll go ahead and leave it as the name that it's been given here, and we'll go with a 16 gig hard drive. 8 would probably be okay since we're installing like a server install. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna go back to 8. 8 gig. Let's see what happens. All right, we'll go next. All right, so let's go hit start. Yeah, I'll just hit start here. It's gonna pop up another window, and of course mine popped up on a different screen. Okay. All right, and we're gonna pick CentOS 8. Also note during the, oh, here we go. Also note that during the initial setup of this, there was an option to pick a Linux distribution. I don't really know if you pick something different, if it really matters. It may have something to do with something, but I haven't really dug into it. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and click in the window. And just a little heads up, now that you click in this window, you can't move your mouse outside. This is normal, and since I have 28 seconds, I better move along. So we're gonna hit right control to exit that. And that kind of lets you see. Now these little windows are gonna pop up here. You can ignore these for now. We're gonna fix all that later. All right, so we'll go here. We're gonna go ahead and install using the arrow keys. Now the reason I chose CentOS is because it's pretty much the same code base as Red Hat, and that seems to be kind of a, I want to say it's a more standard Linux than Fedora or OpenSUSE, Ubuntu for that matter. So I just went and picked the one that I'm more common with in my daily work. Okay, I'm gonna hit right control and then close this little window that popped up again. Right. Now the installer is going through, but it might look like it's stuck. Just give it a little bit longer and it will eventually pop up to another screen. See, it is starting to pop up. Now that you have your mouse back in here, you can move your mouse, but again, it will not leave the window. So we'll hit English, as that is the language that I speak, and we will go with continue. Okay, and I really want to go through one by one, but there's one thing I need to do first. So let's go ahead and hit the network, and we're going to turn on the interface. By default, it is set to DHCP, and you'll see the subnet that it wound up in here. So go ahead and hit done. Well, you can set your host name here too if you want to. What's next? Let's do it for giggles. CentOS. CentOS. Demo. I don't know. That domain's probably taken by Google. All right, and we'll hit done. And now we'll set our time zone, which I think in my case, I'm going to be Chicago, and network time is on by default now. So, and if you didn't set your network, this would be disabled and set to off. Then you would have to go back and check the network settings. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and hit done. And now let's set our root password. And like I said, I'm going to do CentOS 8. CentOS 8. It would be best to pick something if you're planning on using this for anything other than just messing around. Obviously, I picked a really weak password. You don't want to do that. Done. Done again. And now we're going to change what we're installing. So let's go ahead and pick this. And we don't really need to have a full user interface if we're setting up a server. It's good for somebody who is used to using Windows. So it does add your point and click interface for you. But in this case, we're just going to do the minimal install. It does install everything that is necessary, but it's also going to be your smallest chance for installing something small. All right, we'll go hit done again. And we'll pick our disk. And as you can tell, it's already selected. And 8 gigs obviously will be good for this little miniature server install. So storage configuration for now, just kind of leave that as the default since you're just learning. We'll hit done. Okay. And most of these other settings I believe are good. So security policy, we're not locking it down that much yet. That might be something you can do at another time. So begin installation, and this part's going to take a while. As you can see, it's creating the disk. It's going to take a while, so I recommend coming back to the video after this part is done. So I will pause the recording. All right, it is finally done installing. We'll go ahead and hit reboot system, and we'll let it go. Now that we created that user, that root user, we're going to log in with that. Typically what I would have you do is log in with a secondary user and use sudo to get into it, but for this particular case, we're just going to use root, which, yeah, good place to get started and messing around and breaking the system. So, all right. This is a normal error. Okay. Now that we've gotten to this screen, we can click back in the window if we're already out of it. And what we'll do is hit F1 and you can finish seeing what's happening during the boot process. All right, and we're logged in. So we're going to type in our root user. Almost every Linux distribution has a default user. This is usually it. And go ahead and do that. It's CentOS 8. Hoping I typed it right. I did. Okay, so here we go. We're in. So now we're going to do a check to see how much disk space we actually use. And it was 8 gig was really enough in this case for the disk space. Oh, no, we got a 6.2. That's a little close. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and do yum upgrade. To get the latest, well, let's do a network test quick. Ping Google. It always comes back. All right, so now we can do a yum upgrade. -y for yes. That makes it non-interactive. And depending on how old the ISO is, there might be quite a few updates. In this case, it's fairly new, so there's a small number of packages. Looks like the kernel is getting updated, so you will probably have to reboot afterwards. And there is actually 2 ways to do that. One of them is typing reboot. Not all Linux distributions have that, so keep that in mind. So if you get to one of those systems that don't have reboot, you can do shutdown now -R. Okay, and the OS update is done. So now what we're going to do is reboot. Okay, well, I'll show you what the actual lessons are. You can type reboot on your own. Shut down now -R will do a reboot. So let's go back to the VirtualBox installation here. Go ahead and log back in as root after you've done the upgrade. And now what we're going to do is install the VirtualBox tools. So in order to do that, you may need to install some packages. I'm going to do this because I can never remember what they are. But go to devices, insert guest edition CD image. It may ask you to download them. Go ahead and do so. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and mount the device CD-ROM to mount for now. And you can see that it is mounted as read-only. So we'll go to mount and we will run as root. Now to run a Linux command that has an execution bit on it. So if you look at VirtualBox Linux editions.run, you'll see that those are already marked as executable. So we'll do a /from/mount vbox Linux editions.run. And again, this will probably pop up a message saying, hey, you need some packages. Linux failed. Of course, I don't get anything useful out of this, so I will pause it and come back with the instructions. All right, looks like we're going to need some additional packages to install before we can do this, including, yeah, actually, no, I'm going to put the packages that we need in the, I'll put the packages that you need in the comments or in the description of the video. But we'll start with this one, yum install bzip2 kernel-devel, and this is just a subscript that's going to run uname -r, so that picks the current version of the kernel. So we'll do the headers, perl, gcc, make elfutils-devel. Okay, so that should install some, unless we have some packages on elfutils-. Typo. Okay, there we go. And we'll hit yes to continue. And then we can go back and try that again. About 175 packages in this case. I'll pause the video and come back when this is finished as well. All right, and that is done. Now we'll try to run those commands again, which is VirtualBox Linux additions. Nice, still fails. All right, well, okay, did some digging. Turns out there's a tool that's not installed when you do the minimal. The command is tar, so we need to yum install tar as well. So I already have it installed because I just did it just for giggles. Okay, and now we can do the VirtualBox Linux installation. Now we don't want X, so we don't want to do this through a UI, so we're gonna do VirtualBox Linux additions, and we're gonna do -H. In this case, we're gonna get a little bit of help. So we're gonna do no X because we really don't want X11 stuff being installed since it's a server, so no X11. And we'll go ahead and hit enter there, and yes. And I'm really hoping it works without a hitch this time, so yes. The magic of demos, there's always something that breaks. Okay, we'll let that run for a second. This could take a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it again and come back when it's done. Okay, it is done, and right off the bat, you're going to notice a little pop-up. It's fine, just close that, but now you're also going to notice that you can go in and out of the window now with your mouse. All right, that's the good stopping point here. So that's it for this first part of the video. If you have some questions, you can leave it in the comments. I will try to answer them the best I can. We'll see you next time.